That was very obviously
But you just can't
written
tell
by
me.
their PR people.
Yeah.
There's no way they wrote that on the fly.
Little sailor boy reporting for duty, sir.
You look so cute.
Thanks, Daddy.
You're welcome. I'm so sorry about the news that broke for you. I know that was a big surprise for you.
Which news?
That you're a big homo.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I was hoping you would tell the queer community for me, please. I'm still waiting on my invitation.
The funny thing about that is that for both of us, being perceived as queer by like strangers is like such a compliment.
I know, but it's never the ones you want.
I know. You and I both. I literally had bisexual flag hair and still.
It's the life we live. We chose this life. Or this life chose us.
Just forever getting more tattooed. Like I literally have naked women on my body.
It's not enough.
Please see me as gay.
I wish I had more naked women. Maybe I'll fix that.
You know what I think?
I need more dicks.
I literally had this thought in the car on the way over here today. Okay. I think what you should do is get leg tattoos.
I feel like leg tattoos.
There's something
like
about a shin tattoo with ankle, like the high top chucks, that just reads as like queer.
Having just like a sleeve now is like not enough.
I know. Isn't that so annoying?
COVID. It's like, oh, everyone did like during COVID.
Everybody had a queer awakening.
And I feel like they were just handing out sleeves.
I know.
I guess.
This is a Herculean feat. Both of ours were. It was such a labor of love. I say that as if I was the one tattooing it.
You gotta sit there. You're a good sitter.
Yeah. Getting tattooed like that is rough.
I think I just like getting tattooed because then you get encouraged for doing well, for taking pain.
And on today's podcast episode, Aaron outs himself for having a praise king.
I think, and I would like to extend some apologies because I know I offended some people several episodes ago.
What did you do?
You know the running theme with Job in Arrested Development and the I've made a huge mistake?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know why I kicked Asterion out of my party. That was such a silly Billy.
It was a choice. And I wanted to let you go on that journey on your own. I wanted you to learn your lesson in your own time.
Oh, you know all the TikToks around it and stuff into the like everything is gay in Baldur's Gate? It should be Baldur's Gay, honestly.
Honestly, it's gay and it's so horny.
Oh, and I love it, obviously. But I would just love to point out that my offensively straight friend recently started playing and let Asterion suck some blood out of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it might be an infection.
I literally run around in my own personal game, not the one that we're playing co-op, but my private one. I run around being bloodless all the time because I'm just like, it's fine. It's okay.
You're fixing him.
Yeah.
You're making him better.
No, honestly, I just really like him. And I have heard a lot of stuff about how his backstory is really tragic. And I'm like, oh,
we're about to find out soon. We're almost there. We're almost there in ours.
I know.
I'm so bummed we had to get rid of Jaheira.
I know.
She just didn't fit in the party mix.
Jaheira is so good, though. Anyways, hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. You're listening to There's a Lot to Unpack here.
And as always, there is almost too much to unpack here.
Also, you know what I realized we never do the other day?
What do we never do?
We never introduce ourselves on this podcast.
Oh.
I know that most of you are people who already know who we are, but I feel like it's probably good practice.
Would that help? Are people listening?
I don't know. I feel like it's good practice.
Hi, welcome to the podcast. There's a lot to unpack here on this. And on this podcast, we unpack things.
Yeah. My name's Mickey.
I'm Aaron.
We're a cute little married
that's fat
couple.
Mickey.
Yeah.
I'm thin Aaron.
Yeah, big fatso. We're cute and married and talk about mental health stuff.
And life stuff.
Yeah. So we're doing that today.
And today is definitely a mental health day.
Oh, boy. I know.
I think it's so crazy that I feel like these last 2 weeks between the 8 passengers, that, and now the Danny Masterson, Ashton Kutcher, like all of this stuff. And like it's all stuff I did not give a fuck about initially.
Yeah.
And then like
I was like,
more and more stuff comes out and you're like, hold on. And then you like start actually reading and like getting into it.
Yes.
Because like I see like one headline for something. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize this had been like so ongoing. Like I was just very, very out of the loop with this.
Yeah. I have that experience often.
Yeah. And then it turned into a thing. I was like, oh my God, like we have to talk about this. Like there's so much going on. There's so many, this onion is thick.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I struggle with too is with headlines like that. Like I initially was this way about the 8 passengers thing where I knew nothing about that family or like the history there. And in my brain, I oftentimes learn about this stuff on TikTok. Yeah. And so in my brain, I'm like, I don't have space for any more overwhelmingly traumatizing and sad news.
Yes. It's
like,
exactly
it's hard.
that.
It's a hard thing for me. I think especially because like that's my regular day job. We make content about traumatizing stuff a lot. And so like when I'm on TikTok, I'm like, I'm here for the vibes.
I want fun stuff.
And so
Baldur's Gate memes and other.
Sometimes I do kind of like avoid it a little because I'm like, I don't want to know about it, man.
Well, it's like,
but then when there's so much of it, you're like, okay, fine. Like I'll look into this. Like it's probably good to be educated about this. And then you look into it and you're like, like there's so much happening right now.
I think this is important to point out too, because like I say this all the time too, especially like in regards to like QAnon and other like conspiracy theories. And like I have a hard time with them, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know why. They make me uncomfy. They squeege me out. Like all this sort of things.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think for good reason.
But like we've wanted to talk about Scientology on this channel.
For a long time.
For so long.
Yeah.
And I'm so mad we didn't finish. Like I literally would pay for.
I feel like we probably can't. It's probably on Amazon Prime or something.
Okay, we'll find it. But like I want to finish Leah Remini's.
I know. Leah Remini and Mike Rinder are
Rinder.
They are so incredibly dynamic and interesting to watch.
Oh my God, they're such a pair.
Yes. Well, and they're like so effective at explaining what is actually very complex dynamics.
No, literally.
And like a really layered and like problematic culture in a way that makes sense to people who've never known anything about Scientology.
If you want to talk about a problematic onion, that's it.
Yes.
Because like I thought Scientology was just like Tom Cruise, fucking give money, space god, spaghetti monster.
Yeah.
Like
very cut and dry. But it's not at all.
It's not.
It's such a wild unraveling of stuff.
And the thing too, I come back to is like, I know in life, like I could do this with so many things for basically everything, where you could be like, oh, well, if you look at this and you look at this, but then you put this third piece, then you
the
start,
string on the corkboard.
Yes, like I could Pepe Sylvia this thing very fucking quickly.
Yes.
And like, I know like in reality, like, cause we were watching some stuff and I was like, oh, this like, I definitely could see this happening.
Yeah.
But I'm like, where's the evidence?
Yeah, it's
like,
hard.
If you're telling me like, oh, I have this information from these people who have told me these things.
Yeah. Also,
that's not going to fly.
To be clear, because you're saying this out of context, no one was in the car with us this morning when we had this talk.
Where were you guys?
It sounds like you're saying that there's no evidence for the
oh my God,
assault allegations, which is not true. That's not what Aaron is saying. There are a lot of allegations about just because I know how your brain works.
I'm sorry, I forget that they're not here with me all the time.
No, you're fine.
You all live in my heart at all times. I want you to know, like when you're there with me.
There are a lot of allegations that have been flying around about the early days of Ashton Kutcher's career.
Yes. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Especially his like
that context is important.
Potential. Concealing of the truth and like outright lies about things that he's either been involved with or not involved with. We're not going to super get into that just because that's what Aaron was saying. Like there's not a lot of like corroborating facts about whether he was actually involved or not truthful about certain things. But the thing that we're talking about today is the Danny Masterson case, because there's a lot to unpack there in regards to like the way that other celebrities have handled this and also the involvement of Scientology in this whole situation.
That's the thing that I didn't know was even like, I wasn't even like, that's not even a player on this chessboard. And they said, actually we're playing checkers, bitch. And actually I should have made that analogy backwards because chess is more complicated. But
it's fine.
That's again,
people
back to my
get
brain.
It. Yeah, people get it.
Just remember you're in my heart.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're talking about that today because I think there is just a lot of meat there for us to unpack.
It's a buffet.
Like you were saying, we've wanted to talk about Scientology for a long time.
We're going to get to it.
When did we start watching that docuseries?
It was like 2 years. It was a long time ago.
Leah Remini and Mike Rinder did a docuseries on Netflix originally, I think.
Yeah.
That was them speaking about their own personal experiences with Scientology and also like the work that they've done.
And the families and the people they've interviewed and
the work that they've done now as like an organization to help people escape and to like draw attention to the problems that exist with Scientology.
God, some of the stories are so heart-wrenching. Yeah.
If you're not aware, by the way, Scientology is like well and truly a cult. They are really, really punitive with people who say anything negative about Scientology, people who have like been in Scientology and escaped.
There's no chill. Yeah.
They like part of what they cover in the docuseries is Leah and Mike being like quite literally followed and harassed and like hunted down by these hired hands that are allegedly
they're like literally being followed,
being employed by Scientology.
Yeah.
And there's like a lot of kerfuffle with Shelley Miscavige, which is the cult leader's wife who's been missing for like 20 years. Yeah. There's just like a lot of really problematic stuff.
Oh my God, yeah.
There's a lot of really fucked up shit going on there. I looked at Leah Remini's Twitter the other day.
Okay.
Just to like catch up and see after we started talking about this. And they still have like no answers about what happened to his wife. It's crazy.
Yeah, we need to finish that docuseries. Also, I just don't think there's any way where you can do an episode on Scientology. Maybe it'll be a good place for the pod. But like, it's not a one episode thing.
No, because there's so much.
There's like literally like I
know. And I want to do an episode about the psychology of cults eventually.
Absolutely.
It's just that's also one of those things that's like so big and like hard to wrap your arms around.
Our notes apps on our phones are just full of.
I know. I have a whole Google folder that's filled with like half finished outlines of stuff that I'm just like,
we get to that.
I get overwhelmed and then I'm like, we need to talk about something else.
Well, also too, and then stuff like this pops up and it's like, like I think there's a lot to. And I think I enjoyed the conversation we did have in the car today too, on the way here, because I was finding myself not like wrapped up in a little bit more, but I was like, oh, and then look at this, and then look how they tie in together, and they're like, look, like it's all.
Oh, I see what you're saying now. Yeah.
Because
getting like lost in the sort of
but then you like kind of pulled me back in, and I just think it's so crazy because like it's kind of like wild the way you can like get wrapped up in it and like start seeing, and like unless you have like some hard ass firm, which I guess
like
more
firm evidence
just
about.
A long roundabout way to say like I appreciate your like staunchness and commitment to the truth and like making sure you're not like if there's ever any doubt like Mickey's out here talking out her ass, which what we learned with the fucking the therapist in from Eight Strangers.
Oh my God, Jody Hildebrandt.
Did I just say Eight Strangers?
Eight Strangers. Yeah, Eight
Sounds
Passengers.
like a bad Netflix TV show.
Which, by the way, there will be a main channel video about that out. If it's not, well, it should be
this week.
Yeah, it should be out on Saturday.
Yeah.
At the time that we're recording this, it should come up 2 days after this.
More stuff I didn't want to know or learn about.
That one was a hard one.
Yeah, thank you for doing
I won't
the research
lie.
for that.
That one, like, I talked about this earlier. We, make content about traumatizing things on this channel. And like, obviously that's my day job. But like, for the most part, I think I do a pretty good job of compartmentalizing. It's rare for me to have a day now, especially after like having done it for years, to be like, caught off guard by like trauma accounts and like descriptions of abuse and stuff. But like reading even just like the objective facts and like watching some of the video footage for the way that those kids were treated, like caught me off guard. I was not at all prepared for like the severity of that. So I just, I obviously will say this in the video, but strong and serious trigger warning for the video that's going up on Saturday because it's rough, man. It's a rough time.
I haven't seen you like so emotionally and like it's like it takes like a physical toll on you.
Yeah, I was like exhausted.
Drained by that
rough.
yesterday. Yeah, I felt so bad.
No, it's okay. It's important content and like I'm happy to do it, obviously, but like I said,
thank you for doing the work.
It's rare for me to get sort of knocked on my ass these days from like doing research and stuff, and that one got me. So
speaking of getting us,
let's talk about this traumatizing stuff.
So where do you even want to start with this one? Because I feel like there's so many different places.
I think it's important to recap the objective facts of the matter. In case you're unaware,
we'll fill you in.
Recently, Danny Masterson, who is a celebrity, he was on that 70s show a while ago. He's done other things since then, but like, who cares?
That 70s show is basically
Danny Masterson was arrested, tried, charged, convicted for sexually assaulting several women. I think it was at least 2.
I know two for sure counts. They were unable to.
But so he was convicted. He was sentenced to the maximum sentence, which was 30 years, I believe. And so there's been a lot of news coverage about the details of that. We're not going to get into the actual details of the assault, but like, rest assured that the conviction or the sentence certainly matched the like graphic and violent nature of the crimes. And
I think with content like this too, at this point, if you want to, we'll leave it in your court to go. If you want to go further, find that information.
Oh yeah,
because it's very, very readily like it's not very. We will not have to do any digging.
Not concealed at all. But I just don't really want to like.
I don't think there's any
there's no need, honestly. But agreed. So that happened, which was a big deal because Danny Masterson is like pretty publicly associated with Scientology.
Which I had no idea. I mean, like I guess why would we too? But like also. so.
It's not like I'm making a career out of following Danny Masterson around, but it was a big deal because he is pretty publicly associated with Scientology, who allegedly Scientology has this reputation for shielding abusers and like perpetrators of crimes of this nature. So him being convicted in like a regular ass court of law was like a pretty important and like validating moment, especially for people who have survived and like fled Scientology.
That was exactly my first thought was too, like this was probably like a very like vindicating moment for a lot of people, albeit fucked up at the way it came about.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's a lot of people feeling very like justified.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think it also speaks to the strength of the victims who spoke out about this, because there is also allegations that Danny Masterson tried to pay these people off and like offered to pay them $1 million to sign an NDA. And like
the judge made a comment about that, didn't they?
Yeah. There's been a lot of roadblocks along the way that these people could have very well thrown in the towel, and like nobody would have blamed them, right? But these people have been like very staunch and like courageous in like continuing to put their foot down and like demand justice for not just themselves, but like obviously all the other people who've been victimized. Which, by the way, in case you weren't aware, this is very much a thing that happens in convictions of this nature. Okay. It's common for someone to be convicted on like the charges for 1 or 2 assaults, but for there to be many, many, many others.
Yes.
And to be clear, I'm not making that allegation about Danny Masterson. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not like briefed on the details of the case, but just for what it's worth, that is very much a thing that happens sometimes where legally it's difficult to bring charges for every crime. But like sometimes it's more feasible to bring charges and like actually get a conviction on one. And so then it's vindicating for all the other people who didn't get their charges. Like actually. But so that is notable. But then also the thing that's happened is like a whole media shitstorm.
That's the part when I started, I think I started tuning in when I saw Ashton and Mila. Their apology video, and I was like, what are they apologizing for that has to do with? I
saw something about them writing character letters and people being upset, and this was at the time that I was like, I don't want to know anything about Danny Masterson, like leave me alone.
And I don't have space for one more. This memory is full.
And then the media shitstorm continued, and so I was like, okay, fine. What the fuck is going on here? My nosiness got the better of me. But so that has happened. What are your thoughts about the whole character statement thing? Because I know people have mixed feelings about it.
So my understanding is they sent them after the conviction. So like, but not the sentence. That's notable. But not the sentencing.
Correct.
So basically they were sending them in an effort to hopefully reduce his sentence, is my understanding of the process.
After he was already convicted.
So like, and just to clarify again, so they sent these letters after knowing that a jury had convicted him.
Correct. That's my understanding.
So like he is a criminal, or like
he's a convicted
felon.
He was a convicted
and then
criminal.
They sent these statements.
Correct.
So I think because like in my opinion, a character statement is kind of like a neat, like cool story, bro, kind of a thing. Like damn, that's crazy.
Yes.
Because if I'm hearing evidence from the defense and the prosecution.
From the prosecution,
or like hearing the evidence presented
in court.
You know what I mean.
I hear what you're saying.
Then like statements from people who are not directly involved, like I guess the character statements to some degree, but also I think it's interesting of note to me at least that like Danny wasn't brought. His defense didn't call on him to testify either. Yeah,
and to be fair, like I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know anything about the significance of that, but it does seem odd. To me also,
because it seems like you would use that moment. And again too, we're not lawyers, like this is just my like what I've seen.
These are pontifications.
But I guess it's just interesting to me too than you would rely on, and I understand he probably didn't directly ask them for, and like it was his family and stuff to send like
sure,
but it just seems interesting to me that you would use or like bank on, like at this point it would seem like the judge is clearly pretty set. So it seems like it's almost like it's like a weird support. But then like
that's the thing that I
like
struggle with.
It didn't seem to be necessary. Like it could they couldn't have thought it was gonna make a difference, I guess.
That's the thing that I struggle with. I think they probably did think it was gonna make a difference.
Like you thought they would reduce his sentence.
Yeah, but that's the thing that I struggle with is that if somebody that you know and love is, as it turns out, a perpetrator of violent and disgusting crimes, then you saying like, well, but don't throw the book at him. It's like so gross.
Yeah.
I think it's important to honor that people can have conflicting feelings about like a loved one or someone that they trusted being revealed as like an abuser or a perpetrator of like violent crimes, right? Of course. And that you don't have to be supportive of that person, right? Like people are entitled to take their own time to grieve like essentially the loss of this loved one and like the way that you saw them before.
It's like a death.
But then also not be a person who's like actively advocating for the opposite of that. Because it is inherently invalidating to victims.
That's what I'm thinking. Because like, so on the surface, them sending these character statements after the fact, after the conviction, just reads as like, so we don't actually believe in the victims, even though they have been proven to be justified in their...
At best, it's like minimizing the impact of that and saying like, okay, fine, maybe this did happen, but he doesn't deserve to have his life ruined.
Yeah,
which
like
is like
20
a thing.
Years later.
People say this all the time about victims, like sexual assault cases. They're like, sure, maybe he did a bad thing, but he doesn't deserve to have his life ruined. And like, fuck you for that. Because like understating it's essentially you're like minimizing the impact of this on another person's life. Like
a trauma,
people like as victims didn't deserve to have their like lives ruined, right? Not that your life is ruined. You're not ruined. You're not broken. You're not bad. But like it's a incredibly fucking traumatizing
the course
thing.
Of your life has,
and you didn't deserve that, right? And so like this is the whole point of the justice system. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not a fucking fan of the police
obviously
or like
not.
The justice system generally speaking. But like it is for better or for worse the resource that we have to sort of enforce some kind of logical consequence. And so like saying that this person doesn't deserve to have their life ruined is so fucking hurtful, because basically you're saying like this person did do this to you and did kind of ruin your life, if only for, at least for a time, but like don't be mean to him. Don't be mean to the guy who's like fucking abused you. Like why? Literally why? Maybe we should be meaner. I don't know. I just have a hard time. I think that's also a thing that I struggle with, is I have a really difficult time understanding when people don't abide by like the morality thing. I'm like, this is clearly wrong. Like, what do you mean? Like it really pushes a button. But I'm like, this is the correct thing to do. Like, why would you get in the way of that?
Well, and I think this is where we get to the unpacking of it, because so on the surface level, these character statements, like, okay, fine, I can to some degree understand writing a statement in defense of your friend that you've known for decades.
Sure.
Like I can understand that. I can get that.
You can like humanize that desire.
Yes, and like I still don't believe, like I don't believe they were capable of this.
I hate that shit.
Like I know none of them said that, but like I'm just using this as like the general thought.
But also Ashton Kutcher's apology, or
honestly,
not his apology, his character statement did kind of come across that way, because at the very end there he had a thing about like, I can say that in the years that I've known him, he's only ever been the person that I've described.
He's never lied to me, or I've never
letter.
known him to lie to me.
Yeah, which is like an odd take.
If he's lying to you, then like you, of course, you wouldn't know. He's yes, correct. But then also too with the character statements, reading them on the surface level, like which is funny. I don't know if it's funny, but like apropos, today's 9/11, and we're reading. Ashton
I know his thing about like Danny Masterson being supportive after 9/11. Like,
yes, and I was like,
okay,
like that's super out of left field.
Yeah.
Weird. Why did that come up? But then second, the whole like use of like leading us free from a life of drugs. And I was like,
which you were saying this is like a very Scientology thing, isn't it?
So what I was reading from is because Scientology, like drugs and alcohol and stuff are like not safe for the mind, and like taints and tox.
So they like steer people away from them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like there should be no. But then my initial thoughts were like, oh, they're saying this because my impression is that he used methods to essentially
drugs were involved in perpetrating those crimes.
So then like I was like, okay, so are they creating this character statement to say like he's anti-drug, so he would never use drugs? But
it does come across as trying to invalidate the victims.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then, but then when you take it that step further, we're like, okay, so like they brought up the 9/11 thing, the use of the anti-drugs, like this whole Scientology-ish rhetoric. Yeah, it's like starts to get really gross and weird, and like
it gets creepy
very quickly.
Are you okay? I thought you were gonna cry. I was like, I've never seen you cry like that.
No. To be clear, I had a burp. I'm sorry, I was holding it.
I thought you were gonna cry about I was like, wow, I've never seen you get emotional about news like this before. Yeah, I think the other thing that's important to address here. I lost my train of thought. Hold on, it's gonna come back to me. Oh, God. It came back to me.
I was thinking so hard. Go, quick.
The other thing that's interesting to me too about this whole thing is the character statements, and how like these were released after the conviction and all of that stuff, they do really read as this, like, this person could never do that because he's always been so nice to me. Oh, right?
Yes.
And, like, I think this is a very important thing for people to integrate into our collective minds about abuse, which is that abusers are not abusive to everyone that they meet, but that doesn't invalidate the fact that they are an abuser to someone else, right? Like, just because someone who's an abuser, who's been revealed to be a fucking terrible person, hasn't been mean to you specifically, doesn't give you the right to say, oh, well, they've always been nice to me, and so therefore I refuse to believe this, you know? This is like the number one thing that happens to victims of abuse when they try to come forward about their experiences is that people go, oh, but he's always so nice to me,
They've
right?
Never done
or like,
anything to me.
This person's always so nice to wait staff. Anytime that, like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, that doesn't fucking matter. And I think you talked about a tweet from one of the victims, right? Or the survivors. Who, like, shared a sentiment from another judge. It wasn't the judge in this case. It was
a completely separate thing.
But they shared a sentiment about character letters that I thought was really poignant. Do you remember what it was? Yeah.
So this is a response from a judge, another judge, about character letters.
Yeah, not in this case, but...
Also, like, of course, that'd be like me asking... Maybe not my mom, but me asking you to write, like, something nice about me in defense of me, like, of course I'm the sweetest, kindest, most wonderful person to you.
Yes.
So, like, of course you're gonna say something nice to me.
Yes.
Because I could have been, But anyway, so this reads: it shows how the offender is able to construct an image of himself that is very different from reality.
Yes.
The statements are a perfect illustration of the insidious nature of tragedy experienced in private.
Yes. And I think that also gets at the core of the issue, which is that people who are abusers are not so transparent about it that everyone from a mile away could clock them as an abuser, right? Like, this does happen sometimes, but, like, more often people who are actually adept at abusing and manipulating others do it in a way that you're able to get away with it, right? Like is that somebody like Danny Masterson, who's been assaulting people repeatedly for years and years, wouldn't have gotten away with it without the help of Scientology, allegedly. But also, if they were so transparent that they were abusive to every single person in their life that they had met, right? Like, if you create a very obvious reputation as being an abuser, then when stuff like this comes out, then you're going to get caught, like, immediately, you know? Like, that's not how abuse works. It's not like this caricature of a person who just, like, can't help but be a terrible human. Like, more often than not, they do have, like, some level of skill in concealing these, like, awful parts of themselves out of, like, self-preservation.
Well,
you know?
Wasn't that the whole thing, like, the serial killers in the 80s and the 70s and stuff, like Ted Bundy comes to mind.
Yes.
When, like, oh, someone that gorgeous, that charismatic,
oh my
could
God.
not,
yes.
like... Yeah, no, like, you roll your eyes at it, but, like, people really, like... Like, the
people
whole...
really did that. People still kind of do
I know.
This a little bit.
It's really unsettling.
But also, too, that's the other thing that's important to note is that people who are adept at manipulating others, like, of course they're charismatic. That's, like, part of the gig.
Yes.
You know?
Which is also why then when people are like, my 2-year-old is fucking manipulating me, like, no, the fuck they're not.
No, they're literally not. Kids can't fucking manipulate you. Like, they don't possess the cognitive, like, literal physiological like, matter to do that.
Like, their brains are way too smooth for that.
Be nice. Brains are not smooth.
No,
I know.
I'm just kidding. Your brain doesn't actually start out smooth. To be clear, let's clarify. I understand that's not how it works.
Me being like, stop insulting our brains. But no, I think this is just, like, an important thing to draw attention to, because especially for people who, like, aren't, I guess, like, you know, like, knee deep in psychology and, like, you know, brain stuff like we are, or like I am anyways. Also, this coffee is bad.
Oh, really?
Like, it's fine. I'm going to keep drinking it, but it's, like, not good.
Is it like, it'll
put hair in your chest.
I got a couple.
I told you. It's kind of foul, huh? It's very bitter.
I feel like I don't even like coffee, but I'm like, I need to go get a good coffee now to offset that.
You know what's funny is I thought about ordering a latte.
Sour. Why?
It's sour.
I
It's
would
like
never
sour
want to
and bitter.
describe coffee as sour.
I thought about getting a latte, but I was like, this is a bagel place. Like, they're and I literally saw the person at the cashier, and I was like, I sincerely doubt that this person knows how to make.
And no shame to them.
No, it's not their job. They work at a bagel place. Why would they know how to make espresso well? You know. But I was like, a nice coffee should be a safe bet. It was not.
That's gonna be on my mouth for the rest of the
I know. I'm really sorry.
I'm glad I tried it with you. I'm glad we could do that together.
Me too. Thanks for sharing in my burden.
I'm so sorry to get us off track.
No, you're fine. But anyways, yeah, I guess it's just an important thing that I want to talk about because I know that people who aren't like knee deep in like psychology and brain stuff all the time
most of
don't
us
necessarily
aren't.
think about this kind of stuff. But like it is an important thing to remember that like just because someone who is known as an abuser wasn't mean to you or abusive to you, it doesn't negate those actions. And like especially the take of like, oh, this person could never, like you don't know that. You know, like now I don't want to be the person who's like, nobody knows anybody. Don't trust anyone. Like that's not true. You know, like it's entirely possible to trust people and have relationships. But like, I guess the point that I'm getting at is that like we should believe survivors.
Well, and I think too, the thing that I don't even know where this has like been instilled in me, or like, maybe you did it or something. Just like like even with my friends and stuff, that when they're telling me something or like complaining or like an event to happen to them or something, and I'm like, yeah, but like what was going on with the other people? Or, like what is their side of the story? I'm always like a little hesitant.
They're like, what's the context here?
Yeah, because I'm always here. Like I was actually called like Mama Bird yesterday because someone came like said some sideways shit to one of my friends. Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, you want to fucking like, and I was like ready to fucking pounce. Yeah, and they're like, chill out, it was just a joke. And I was like, that's my bad. But like with stuff like that, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but like, did you like, are you like actually shitty too? You know, like you like, you normally have something to own.
Having some level of healthy skepticism in relationships is good in my opinion. You know, like no one should be so devoted to a person that you outright discredit victims and like people who have been abused because you're like, no, they've been nice to me and so I refuse to believe that. You know?
And I think this is like the enmeshment thing we talk about a lot of times too, and I obviously we're gonna do a video about this too, but I think that's like one of the things too where I was like, everything Mickey says is gospel. It's good. Good. I was like, why would I question anything? And
literally
like,
it's not.
Getting away from that, I'm like, oh my god, what else have I been doing that with? And like just not taking so now I feel like I'm even more like staunch about it, like just not that I'm not trusting people, but like this. So anyways, this is like back to my character statements thing though. Yeah, it's kind of like, of course, like they weren't doing this to you, like that would have like blown their cover.
Well, okay, and also too, like, can we just talk about the fact that in these character statements, they are drawing attention to things like Danny Masterson helping them avoid using drugs or like drinking alcohol,
being a role model to their kids and stuff like that.
That he's like so kind and generous, and then there was some
and a good
shitty
husband.
Anecdote about him standing up for someone in a pizza parlor, and like all this stuff, and like. Okay. Like, even if that is cool fucking story, true, bro. Like, who cares? Like, that doesn't have anything to do with the issue at hand. Yes. You know? Like, that's the thing that I guess irritates me, too, is these character statements that have this energy of, like, well, but he's so funny, and he's so kind, and he's humble, and, like, that literally doesn't make it impossible for him to have perpetrated this kind of abuse.
Well, it feels like that thing, too, where, like, again, and I know this is, like, continuing to be a heavy episode, but, like, you know, the thing where like people are here and then they're not here anymore, and then people are like, oh, I had no idea, like they seem like such a happy person and like that sort of thing. And it's like, well, yes, again, like you don't always know.
It's impossible for any of us to know every aspect of a person, you know.
And I think that's the thing that's so hard about these character statements is too. And it's like, and I'm glad they had to make an apology video about it. Albeit like it seemed very forced and like not at their own hand.
I don't really like their apology, but we'll get into that in a minute.
The question I asked you in the car though is like, so what does reconciliation look like for? Like, how do you even process that? Or like, because I can understand like that's like the shattering of a. Yes. It's very similar to deconstruction, I would imagine.
Yeah, it sort of shakes up your whole concept of reality.
And like, I would imagine your relationships after that and stuff probably look a little different.
Yes, I think the like shitty short answer is that it's all grief work. This is the thing that like really surprises people when we do trauma work, when we do deconstruction work, when we do like. You know, my family of origin is shitty.
I was going to say that's like coming up for me right now too. Is like this, like learning. It's
all
opposite.
Grief. It's all grief work. God. Not that to be clear. I'm fucking exaggerating. Just because I fucking know there's gonna be somebody in the comments who's like, actually, but no, like a fair amount of it is grief work because essentially what it requires you to do is reconceptualize the way that you have interpreted subjective reality, right? Like the thing that's important for us all to remember is that we are all subjectively experiencing the world. This is the thing that comes up to a lot in like couples counseling and stuff. When we have this really firm conviction about like, I'm right in this scenario, right? Like I see it the way that I see it and this is the correct way to see it. That's entirely valid, right? Like we're all entitled to our own subjective view of reality, but we also have to remember that everybody else is doing the same thing. right?
I had to learn that a lot, yeah.
Yes, and so we're all bringing our own baggage to the table. But when something like this happens, where like a loved one essentially is revealed to be a fucking terrible person, we have to reconceptualize the way that we view relationships, that person specifically, obviously, but like relationships generally,
going forward,
the world around us, the way that we operate within that world, and the way that we perceive that world. The thing that's kind of heady about trauma work is that we all subjectively perceive the world, right?
Of course.
But that informs these like larger patterns of belief that help us to form like our understanding of like what's okay and not okay, what's safe and not safe. It's a whole thing. We're not really going to get into like schemas and like the whole CBT thing. But we've talked about this before with like the chair thing, right? Our brains are really adept at forming patterns and helping us recognize things. Yes. And so even a chair that looks like this, or an office chair, or a folding chair, a plastic patio chair. I'm explaining it for the people who've never heard this.
No. I was just saying, like,
don't roll your eyes at me.
No, we've had to be clear, it's because we've had the chair conversation. Many a time.
It's a useful anecdote.
Continue.
Even chairs that don't look anything like chairs, that are like a hand chair, like the car enjoys hand chairs. Our brain is still able to conceptualize those as chairs, right? And so we do this with relationships. We subconsciously intuit that certain behaviors, certain nonverbal cues, certain statements, certain feelings that we have in relationships are all indicators that this person is a safe person. Yeah. And so when somebody is revealed to be an abusive human being, now it fucks your brain up because you're like, like, how am I supposed to know? Yeah. I thought that this person was a safe person. Turns out they're fucking not. And so what a lot of people will do is turn to denial. We aren't able to conceptualize that. This is the same talk that I give people who are doing work around their shitty parents, because shitty parents and like a shitty family of origin, sometimes the reality is that we cannot engage in a relationship with them any longer, because in order for your parent to validate your trauma, they have to unlearn all of their beliefs about themselves, about love, about family, about the way that they've been as a human. And that requires them to do so much unlearning. And like it's this very Herculean effort to essentially unlearn everything that I thought I knew about family, about me, about relationships, about parenting, about what love looks like. And some people aren't able to do that.
God,
right?
When you talk about it like that, and like for both sides, both people have to do this at the same time. That's
and this
crazy.
is why I will die on the hill that it is so fucking harmful for people to say that you have to cut your family off no matter what, right? That you have to force your family to have these conversations with you no matter what, right? Like the truth is that it's a really complex and like sometimes really long process for people to do this.
And you can't do that overnight.
Some people will sometimes come to this realization, right? But just giving people this like point blank, like you have to do this, you have to do that answer about family origin trauma is like so incredibly unhelpful.
It takes out all the gray.
Yes. Yeah. And so like in cases like this, I think that's probably what's my suspicion is that there's probably a mix of like Scientology bullshit and also like a willful denial of Danny Masterson being a bad person because they aren't able or willing to do the unlearning about like, what does this mean, right? About my relationships, about my ability to discern my own safety in this world. If I was friends with this person for 25 years and it turns out he's a fucking ghoul, right?
Also too, because then like if there's other people, because then I would imagine to me in that situation, especially too, I just always picture, I don't know, the Hollywood elite and stuff and like all of them like are all friends with everyone and stuff. And so it's like, well, like, do I actually know the people around me? Yes. Do I actually know the people that I'm friends with? And like they've known them for 20 years. Yes. Well, and also too that like, you know, the statement that Ashton made in the character thing about he's one of the only people that I would trust with my kids. Oh yeah. You know, like that stood out to me too. Yeah. It's kind of an earth-shattering realization for people to recognize that you have been allowing a very unsafe person to have access to these really sacred and like vulnerable parts of your life, right? And so to be clear, I'm not at all excusing what Ashton and Mila did, because the truth is that it is possible to do this work. It's important work. It's work that all of us will probably have to do at some point. Not that all of us will realize someone we love is an abuser, but that like we all have these realizations in life where the way that we thought we were perceiving the world turns out to not exactly be true. Of course. Right. Yeah. And so it's all work that we are capable of doing. And like, especially for people who are rich beyond belief, they have more than enough money to have the services and the support and the community to unlearn this shit. Like there's no excuse for you to not be doing this work. And you can't tell me the time right now and stuff too.
Yes. Like, yes, exactly. Yeah. They have access to some of the most meaningful and useful psychotherapeutic services in the entire world, and they're choosing not to use it because they just want to be committed to this rhetoric, which sucks. And like having your worldview like shattered, basically. Yes. Yeah. I think the other thing that's important to talk about here too is that even for people who aren't able or willing to do that work of like unlearning this way that we've seen the world, right? Fine, that's valid. Everybody's entitled to choose what they want to do with their own life, but you're not entitled to force the people around you to just stand by and accept the consequences, right? Like for Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, if they are committed to not conceptualizing or reconceptualizing Danny Masterson as a bad person, that's fine. They can do that. Yeah. But the consequences are theirs to own then, which is that like, first of all, professionally, they're going to suffer a lot. But second of all, this like song and dance of like, we support victims. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because when it came down to it and it affected you personally, you chose to not. You chose to turn the other way and say, I don't want to look at that. And that's fine. Like if you want to do that, that's fine. But like shut the fuck up then about your advocacy and your support for victims, because when it counted, you didn't show up here, you know? And
also too, like I know it's not necessarily related per se, but like because Ashton Kutcher does have that the Thorn organization too. And like just it's like when she doth protest too much. But the thing too, and so it just makes it hard then like when they have these situations and they're in these moments, and also too the fact that
really bad optics,
because my impression of the character statements too were that these were submitted well before the trial. You know what I'm saying? Like they came out like they were leaked. Their statements were to the judge prior to the conviction, prior to the sentencing.
I don't think they sent these statements prior to the conviction. They knew that he had been convicted.
No. I know that was my impression.
And so
that's why I was like,
baby, that's wrong.
No, and I know, and so I was like, these letters make a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Than if they're talking about him in this way.
Yeah.
Like they're still under the impression he's proven innocent
until proven guilty. Yeah, but that's not the case.
Yeah, and so that's why I was so surprised. I was like, oh my God, they wrote these after?
Yes. Yeah.
And like it just feels like a commitment to the belief that like exactly you were talking about, like not wanting to do the like
we're refusing to sit in denial, like we're choosing to sit in denial.
Like we're not saying the thing where like, wow, my friend, our friend, who we've known for decades might have actually or like is actually a fucking awful person.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, but like that's a you problem though. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. And so like this apology then that they made, like, because what are they addressing, like the hurting? Or
I think calling it an apology honestly is really generous.
Honestly, it's not even fair because I think they said sorry maybe once, but then immediately followed up with an if.
But also I don't think they did say sorry. I think they said something like
if that hurt. Or,
you're right. They did say like
it real quick. Or
yeah, sure. Let's watch it again.
Are you ready?
Are you gonna fade it in?
Yeah.
You extra ass bitch.
Let me be an extra ass bitch.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
That has been caused by the character letters that we wrote on behalf of Danny Masterson.
We support victims. We have done this historically through our work and will continue to do so in the future.
A couple months ago, Danny's family reached out to us and they asked us to write character letters to represent the person that we knew for 25 years so that the judge could take that into full consideration relative to the sentencing.
The letters were not written to question the legitimacy of the judicial system or the validity of the jury's ruling.
They were intended for the judge to read and not to undermine the testimony of the victims or re-traumatize them in any way. We would never want to do that. And we're sorry if that has taken place.
Our heart goes out to every single person who's ever been a victim of sexual assault, sexual abuse, or rape.
Like, neato. Literally, what the fuck is that?
I understand writing before.
Sure. Well, that was very obviously
but you just can't
written
tell
by
me
their PR people. Yeah. There's no way they fucking wrote that on the fly.
Because also
it screams legalese.
Sorry if. Literally, like, that's not one word. Like, also, why did they...
Can we talk about the... like, we support victims. We've historically done that in the past. Again, this is the thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've historically supported victims. Right now, you are not. And so you need to be willing to be accountable for that if you want to make any meaningful repair, right?
It's giving the, like, not Gwyneth Paltrow, Drew Barrymore. The striking thing, like her, like you've decided now, like this is very much that, like you've defended people in the past,
but you're not doing it now. And so that's all for Bupkis
because
like,
it affects you.
Yes,
like it's still like this. Your stance should still be the same.
Yes,
but now
just because
it affects
it's negatively
you
affecting you, you don't want to be an advocate.
Yes,
ew. Which to me screams like fair weather advocacy.
Yeah,
which like makes all of your past advocacy work honestly like less impactful now.
Yeah, because
you're willing to do it in the abstract, but not when it actually affects your real life.
You can't actually put your ass into it. Like it's very easy. It's like that thing where it's easy to support things that like don't actually affect you. Like
the pro-life thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's a controversial take, but like there has been a lot of discourse about how like advocating for these like invisible fetuses is a really convenient take for this party that historically has oppressed our access to social services, to like community support,
all the
to
things
like
that actually support life.
Yes. Well, and all of the things that help people feel empowered to make a decision to like continue an unplanned pregnancy, for example, right? Like the same ideological belief that's trying to outlaw no-fault divorce is trying to force people into having children that they don't want or can't support raising, you know, like advocating for this invisible population who is sinless, they need nothing in theory, right? They don't inconvenience you in any way. They're pure and like beautiful and sweet and kind and small and adorable, right? Like that's a very convenient thing to advocate for because it affects you 0%.
Well, and also too, like it's again to like the nice thoughts and stuff, like thoughts and prayers thing. Yeah. But then like when you actually have to like make a decision or do something that might affect you. Yeah. And I guess sorry to like that was the parallel I was drawing though, is that like Drew Barrymore has decided now that she's done with the strike and doesn't care anymore and is gonna help the actors and writers.
Drew Barrymore is being a scab.
Anyone who gets on her show is gonna be fucking
blacklisted.
Ridiculed. Yeah. But then like same thing for this, like how can anyone take the work you're doing seriously?
Yes.
The advocacy work you're doing. Yes. Because also Ashton listed philanthropist and advocate or something.
Yeah, because Ashton Kutcher is like the CEO or the founder of Thorn, which is an organization. It's a non-governmental organization that is in the human trafficking world. So their like work is in helping to prevent human trafficking and also helping to identify perpetrators.
But then like if someone you knew was doing that, then like you would
apparently you know what I'm saying? That's kind of the implication of the way they're behaving.
That's the point I'm like trying to draw is like now that it's affecting you, you're like, well, yeah, we can make an exception for this. It's like, and it's like the same thing we talked about last week with like the fatness and stuff. Where like, well, now like you're one of the good ones, so I can make an exception for you.
Yeah,
like,
which is fucked up.
If you're gonna hold these values, then like they have to hold strong.
Yes,
throughout.
Having a value that is only applicable when it doesn't negatively impact your life or inconvenience you isn't really a value. Then is it? You know, like that's kind of phony and like shitty. I don't know. Maybe that's me just like being staunchly committed.
And like to be fair, like you totally are.
I am very much the principal person.
Yes.
But still, you know?
that's what, and I think that's why that apology just comes off as so
fucked up.
It is so hollow.
Yeah. Beyond the fact that it's like very obviously just written by a PR person and they called Ashton and Mila probably and were like, fucking
get
record
on
this.
Here now.
It also just comes across as like very disingenuous because their actions don't align with any of the things that they're saying, you know? Like this is another important thing about apologies, that if you're going to say something in an apology and you're actually trying to achieve repair, don't say shit that you're not willing to put your ass behind, you know, like don't say the shit about like this will never happen again, or like, you know, like things that you don't actually believe or things that you can't make
things
good
that
on.
Sound nice.
Yes. Yeah. Don't just say the things that you think you're supposed to say. Yeah. Because first of all, like human beings do have some intuitive ability to feel out when someone's not being genuine. So that's probably not going to work out for you. But also if you're founding your attempt at repair in half truths and in like a lack of authenticity, that's not going to bode well for your relationship, you know?
Also too, that's why like the whole thing with the letters and stuff is like so interesting to me, because like my impression was like, oh, they got leaked and now they're like, well, you guys weren't supposed to actually see that. But then like if I was them, anything I wrote, I would have assumed.
I know.
I
think that all the time.
Would have been posted everywhere.
And this is just me being anxious and like insane. But like even text messages that I send to you, I'm like, if this got leaked to the internet, what would that look like? You know, like I just can't understand being famous to that degree and really thinking that you could like just get away with that.
It's giving like above the rest.
Like so disconnected from reality.
Yeah.
The other thing about that too that people have pointed out is that it comes across as like, we're not sorry that we wrote them. We're just sorry that you found out. Because like you weren't supposed to know.
Which is why I was so confused, because I was like, why is everyone like, they wrote them before. Like, of course they didn't know then. Yeah. But like, no, this shit was well said and done.
Yeah.
Like that's fucking nuts.
Which, to be clear, even if they did send these before the conviction had been handed down,
it's still bad. Of course,
still, to me, that's like still very much a red flag, because even if someone that you love has been accused of things like this, like especially to this degree, I think there's important self-reflection there to be like, let me like survey the facts of the matter and like actually make an informed decision about this rather than just defaulting to like, this person's been my friend, so I choose to believe them and I'm not looking at any of the relevant facts. Like, that's not cool.
Which is why, and then like take it one step deeper. That's why what I'm curious is like, so were they pressured to write these letters then? Because they weren't written well or like in a way. And I'm like, I hear that apology video and I'm like, maybe this is how they talk.
No.
But then it feels like bullet points almost. Like,
well, because it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's where we start to get into potentially like conspiracy theory territory
and then, like,
that we were talking about earlier, that like
Yes.
some people have made accusations about Ashton Kutcher being indebted to Scientology for particular things that we're not going to get into, and that being the explanation for why him and his wife are behaving this way. But also of note, though, is that Danny Masterson supposedly, allegedly, I don't know how true this is, but is like a pretty committed Scientologist.
That's my impression.
That's my understanding also.
Yeah.
From what we know, like as the public about Scientology, it's rare, to be generous, for people who are really committed to Scientology to have relationships outside of this cult.
Oh, yes. And also you can't kind of do Scientology. You can't kind of be a Scientologist.
Especially when you're rich.
Oh,
because
fuck
like,
no. They want all,
people who have resources to be spending money on all these trainings and all these things and all these like interview, whatever, like they very much pressure you, as far as we're aware, it's our understanding of it anyways. They really, really pressure you into continually going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into this cult. And so I do have a little bit of raised eyebrow about Danny Masterson continuing to have a relationship with Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, despite Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis's statements that they haven't been associated with Scientology for at least 5 years, I think is what she said.
Yeah, because there are pictures of them at events, all like a lot of the cast.
Granted,
of that
like a long
show.
time ago, but still.
Like,
it's clear that they were associated with Scientology in a formal way at some point. And the thing that we know about Scientology from like watching that docuseries and like, the brief research that we've done after we watched it, is that Scientology takes a pretty hardline stance for people who fraternize with people outside of the cult, right?
Like, they can pull you out.
Yeah, they have these things called a declaration or a declare suppressive person.
Yes.
And if you're declared a suppressive person in Scientology, you essentially get blacklisted, but like in a way that ruins your life.
Yeah, like
you
no communication. Yeah, go on.
You no longer have access to your family, to your community, to like you literally.
Don't they have your bank accounts and sometimes too, don't they? Or some extreme cases. I know the camp they have or whatever the fucking prison
the
thing.
like living thing.
Yeah, where you like work
situation.
and you like live. Yes.
Yeah.
Those people had to escape. Yeah.
Their involvement in your life is. It can't be understated for some people who are like really deep in the shit. And so when you become declared a suppressive person, you lose everything.
Yeah.
There are people who have not talked to their family members in like 20, 30 years because if you even so much as answer a phone call from a suppressive person, Scientology will also kick you out.
That was the other thing too in the docuseries that like so blew my mind is like the timeline on these people's lives. Like just like they're like, oh yeah, I started in like 1979 or whatever, and then like, and now it's 2015. Like, oh my god,
years and years and years and years.
Yeah. So it's just, I guess, curious.
Yeah, I think to me, it's just a little bit of an eyebrow raise. That Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher could have this close of a relationship with somebody who's that committed to Scientology. And still maintain this like, oh no, we aren't Scientologists. Like how? And I'm not saying that they're Scientologists.
Totally.
I just am very confused and like, to put it lightly, very curious about how exactly the logistics of that have worked out.
Same, because also my question is too with this is I wonder, and I don't mean this in this way as a derogatory term, but like B and C and D list celebrities. Oh. And like I'm wondering if the draw, I love when I start saying stuff and you can see Mickey.
I was like, what are you about to fucking say, man?
Where are you fucking going with this,
I was like,
dude?
If you have to apologize for using a derogatory term, don't, but that's fair enough.
No, yeah. But like lower tier celebrities, if like Scientology uses their influence and stuff is like promising them more, like I'm wondering if that's like also a draw, because I'm just curious like how these people get enmeshed and weaved
in Scientology.
Or like it just seems like it's so like sprinkled in places you wouldn't expect to find it.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's also part of it too. It does kind of read as like the MLM thing.
Yeah,
that's the other thing that I'm curious about with the Danny Masterson situation, because he does have this very like Scientology rhetoric of like no drugs or alcohol and whatever. And like he's apparently spreading that to all of his friends, right?
Which is totally,
I find it really hard to believe that somebody who is, you know, evangelical about Scientology in that way is not also trying to sell it to his friends.
Yeah.
You know, like it just seems real convenient to me.
Yeah.
Like odd that like somebody who is this committed to what is by all accounts a very authoritarian cult
absolutely
would be willing and able to maintain a relationship with people who are like, no, I'm good. No, thanks for the Scientology. Yeah. No worries about you doing it though. Like that's totally fine.
Keep on.
Having that boundary seems really, really unlikely to me. You know? I don't know that I really believe that. And again, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm not alleging anything. I just like, you know,
just like food for thought.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. That one's an eyebrow raise from me. I think that kind of wraps up our feelings on the issue.
I think it does. I don't think I have anything else on it or about it.
To be clear, this is a non-exhaustive list and discussion of the issue at hand. I think also as media coverage continues, there's probably going to be new stuff that people learn. So,
do you think there'll be more as it goes on, or do you think it'll fall off now that the conviction and sentencing is all?
I feel like it will probably fall off a little bit, but I don't foresee Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis really like coming back from this necessarily. I think there will always be a stain on their reputation. Not that it will negatively affect them financially or like their ability to like work. Cause like let's be real. But I think like from a public perspective, like their reputation is probably a little stained from now on.
Yeah.
For good reason too.
I think it's so hard too when you see clips now then too of like things they've said in the past.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Like that's a whole thing we didn't even get into. It was like early interviews from the That 70s Show era when Mila Kunis was 14 and her co-stars were older than her, but that's something for another day that we don't have time to get into. So it's all bad. It's all bad.
I don't like it.
That's it.
I feel unpacked.
You feel unpacked? All unpacked from your vacation?
Yes.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for making it this far. If you guys want to support the podcast, you can like the video. You can subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. You can leave us 5-star reviews if you like the pod.
Yes, please.
And then leave us comments and let us know what your thoughts and feels are.
What are we recommending this week?
Oh yeah, what are our
We need to watch Tank Girl. That was a trip. If you haven't seen that yet, we caught like 30 seconds of it. We were in a little pizzeria joint before a concert.
Yeah. And it was so
and I was like,
weird.
what the fuck is on the TV right now? I was like, I have to watch this.
You literally Googled it while we were standing there waiting for our pizza.
2 hours of
fever dream.
It was a lapse a minute. I tell you what, I laughed every minute.
Shut up. That's what the description said, and Aaron is really latched onto that phrase.
Yeah, that shit was pretty copacetic though. I won't even lie to you.
The word copacetic was also in it, and he's latched onto that, even though that's not what that word means.
Copacetic is such a good word. Okay, no, the movie honestly,
movie was really good, though.
That was camp. Like when we had the Barbie discussion.
He's doing it again.
The movie is literally fucking camp. Like that shit is fucking camp.
It is very camp. I won't lie.
Especially as comic book adaptations go. At first I hated it. I thought it was super cringy. The inclusion of the comic book strips and stuff in it, and then after a little while, you just kind of embraced it. And then, but then like the singing scene. There's a whole like number. Yeah. And the story just resolves. The way that the story
wraps up is wild.
They just don't make them like that anymore.
No.
And I know and
say that. The little montage scene with the outfits.
Oh, I love it.
Just like, what is going on there?
Also, I just love casual nudity. In the 90s.
You do love casual nudity.
I love casual nudity.
Yeah. I mean, we should be more casual about nudity as a society personally. But
damn. Free the titties, you know?
Anyways, is Tank Girl your rec for this week again?
No, I can't do it. I have to think of something new.
I was thinking about this morning because I need to buy more of it.
Oh, what is it?
The dry shampoo that I use. I am like obsessed with it.
Okay.
It's my favorite thing. It's the Amika brand. I'll put it in the Amazon storefront. But like, okay, this is the thing. As a person with dark hair, finding a dry shampoo and also a very greasy ass fucking head. Finding a dry shampoo that actually works but doesn't do the thing where it's like very residuey and it like turns your hair gray is actually quite difficult. This shit is $28 a bottle and I will buy it until I die because I am like so fiercely committed. I ran out of it this morning and I'm really sad. I need to buy more of it.
Throw it away. You were bummed.
But like for real, if you are struggling to find a dry shampoo that doesn't feel gross in your hair and doesn't make your dark hair
it smells so good. It smells
like
above.
gray and white and whatever, highly recommend.
There's a ton of dry. You wouldn't even believe how much dry shampoo is in Mickey's hair right now.
Yeah. But doesn't it look great?
You wouldn't even know.
I know.
All right, dry shampoo.
Yeah, that's my rec.
I do love food. I love food so much.
I knew it was going to be a food thing.
I know. I just love food so much. Food is like, also food is the like one unifying thing, like beyond language, beyond.
Baby, we could have a whole episode about that.
Like,
you and I feel strongly
also,
about this.
I love that every culture, not every, well, I guess like the main food groups I think that we consume is like every culture needs a hot and a cold element. So you have sour cream, salsa.
Yeah.
Mayo, sriracha.
Yeah.
You have mayonnaise and mustard for
for white people.
hot sauce. But yeah, like I love that. But the real thing is, and I am so sorry if you don't live by a Sprouts. Do you already know where I'm going with this?
I think so.
Okay.
But also, never mind. Keep going.
And this is, sometimes the best food should be easy food. You know, like we don't got lots of time. So you take a pre-made salad, specifically if you can get the elote one, with carnitas from Sprouts.
The turkey carnitas from Sprouts.
Put those in the air fryer. And I don't know.
Or the oven.
That's another thing too. I was trying to ask my friends about this. Is Sprouts, do they have like special food based on your geographic location?
Oh, yes. Please tell us.
Can you let us know
if you're
what
in a
your
Sprouts that's not in the Southwest, do you guys have Mexican food at your Sprouts?
Do you guys have like jalapeno cornbread? Like they make it every day. Like jalapeno cornbread.
Do you guys have like a whole section
biscuits,
for tortillas
muffins.
and stuff?
I gotta know.
Because like obviously there's probably tortillas at fucking Sprouts, but like our Sprouts has like a whole section of like locally made tortillas and like all of these like, you know, really
Mickey
fun.
is a snob when it comes to tortillas, which is fine
Baby,
and
I grew up in a
understandable.
Mexican family. Of course I am.
I know. And
you can't have homemade tortillas and then eat grocery store ones and tell me that they're the same.
They're not the same.
They're not at all.
Not the same.
They're not at all.
But anyways, that's my rec. Pre-made salad, turkey carnitas,
Yep.
and some jalapeno cornbread.
Delish.
You will be so satisfied, I promise.
Also, secondary rec, just because you said the thing about like how all cultures have like hot and a cold and whatever.
Yeah.
I have this theory.
Soup. I already know.
I'm so annoying about this. I will talk about this until the day that I die.
Go on, talk about it.
Soup is the perfect food because soup is a unifying feature across all cultures. Every culture has a version of soup, and you can make soup that's hot, you can make soup that's cold, you can make soup that's chunky, you can make soup that's brothy, you can make soup that's creamy. Every culture has a soup, and soup is the perfect vehicle to experience a culture because you can encapsulate an entire culture's like typical flavor profile in a singular dish and try it almost anywhere, right? Tom yum soup, ramen, chicken tortilla soup, broccoli cheddar soup, like gazpacho, Italian wedding bun. Like there's so many types of soup. Soup's great for when you're, it's fine. I'm not going to keep going, but for real. If you want to understand, like as an introductory dish to a culture, look at what their like most commonly consumed soup is. And in my opinion, it's a great way to experience like what are the typical flavor profiles that I'll experience in this type of cuisine. And
this is a fair thing to be evangelical about, to be clear. But I just love it.
I put in my dating profile one time that like soup is the perfect food and you can like fight me about it. And somebody literally messaged me and was like, oh, you're really hot, but the soup is a deal breaker thing for me. I'm sorry.
So you know,
and I was like, that's fine. Don't match with me then.
You don't want that person in your life
Bye.
anyways, let's be real.
No, literally. Okay, so those are our recs for the week. Thanks for listening to my rant about soup.
Bye.
We'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for letting me rant about soup. But like, am I wrong?
No.